Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
You're muted. Good morning. You're muted.
I'm muted. Okay. Should be able to hear me now. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for taking time out to attend our webinar. We are very fortunate to have Dr. Khosa join us today for a much needed discussion on how to narrow the gap of research for international medical graduates. So Dr. Khosa does not need much introduction, but I'm going to give it a shot. Other than being actively involved in our Young Physicians Committee for years, and he is an associate professor in the Department of Radiology at Vancouver General Hospital in Canada. He has multiple grants, international collaboration, and he's also a faculty speaker at the Radiological Society of North America, American Society of Emergency Radiology, and Royal College in UK, and actually quite a few others. Dr. Khosa has mentored and provided research opportunities for, I want to say, hundreds of students, because he's been doing it for almost 15 to 20 years. And I think we're hoping that today you can learn from those experiences that he's had, and that we can share some important aspects of research that can guide you guys. We also have Dr. Kanis Fatma. So thank you, Dr. Khosa, for joining us. Dr. Fatma is someone I just got to know. And Dr. Fatma is the co-founder for our research, goodness, tell me. It's RCOP, yeah, RCOP, yes. We can't hear you. Let me see, Research Council of Pakistan. So Dr. Fatma has helped with hundreds of publications as well. She's been actively involved in really one-on-one helping our international medical graduates. And we're very fortunate to have her on this forum as well. And we have Dr. Adina Mushir, who's also going to be assisting us with some of the questions. So we are going to start with we'll start with Dr. Khosa, and we'll start with just introducing what he's been doing, and then Dr. Fatma and Dr. Mushir, and then myself. We want this to be a very interactive session. If we have reasonable number of participants, I will open it up as an in-person question, but I would still encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A. We're going to try to stop at promptly at 10 if possible, but if there's a robust discussion going on, we'll continue. So let's go ahead and start. So Dr. Khosa, tell us what you have been doing for the last 15 years, if you can summarize it in any ways.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. So before I start with anything, I would like to acknowledge that if I can see further than people, it is because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. And those giants are Numera you and Kanis you. So I would actually request Numera first to tell us what she has accomplished as a Young Physician Committee Chair of Association of Physicians of Pakistan and Descent of North America. I've worked with Numera. I've been fortunate to work under her leadership, and I have seen her dynamism, and I've seen what she is able to achieve selflessly. These are voluntary positions. There's no remuneration. Even today, when we are doing this, it's in Vancouver, 7 a.m. So I woke up at 6:30 a.m. on a Sunday when it's my day to relax or day off. But we are all here to serve the attendees of this seminar. So I would request Numera first to tell us and the audience about how she has gone about her chairship.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Khosa, for the kind introduction. So our goal this year has been honestly on mentorship and on trying to narrow the gap between international medical graduates from Pakistan or other places as well who of Pakistani descent, and American medical graduates. And the goal is not, to nurture you over a long period of time. And Dr. Khosa has been doing it for a long time. I've literally just started maybe 10 years ago. I want to quickly, I don't want to take too much time. I'm only going to quickly show you the website so we can go through very fast what we've been doing so far with YPC. And I hope that everybody can be familiar with this this page, so you guys know what the activities that have been going on. So let's see if I can do this successfully. Can you all see the Apna YPC page? Excellent. So this is our YPC page right now. Faces will change, but we hope that the processes don't. We honestly, I think YPC is one of the committees where everyone works together, and we have a passion for providing assistance and guidance to our young learners. We've divided into different learners. Right now, the focus has been on international medical graduates, but very soon we're going to be starting our focus on medical students. We have a YPC Observership program, which is on hold right now because we need more preceptors, but it's an excellent program that is designed around the American Medical Association. And so each preceptor gets a outline of what they need to be doing, what competencies are, and so you can get an LOR that is around those competencies. We've posted some visa application interview tips, which you guys will be dealing with very soon. Other resources, of course, PMC is a big one, but one of the other resources you may not know of is the webinars. And this webinar is going to be one of the ones going here. And on and off, I would encourage you to go back. If we update any of these talks, we will remove the older talk and then we will keep updating this. So that's one of the main things. Our mentor-mentee program will start very soon this month. We will wait for mentors to sign up. And then once they have, we will start sending the students information to sign up as well. And we will match you. We will encourage learners of every level, from students to graduates to residents and fellows, to utilize that. So thank you so much, Dr. Khosa, for that.
Thank you for all the services you've done, and you forgot a few, the help that you lent at the time of visas, the help that you lent at the time of observership selectives, the help that you lent at the time of mentor-mentee connections. But that is humility on your part, and that is why we are your fans. Thank you so much. So I would like to now request Denise to tell us how she has been able to accomplish which was non-existent before, how she has been creative and has helped a lot of people. Thank you. You're muted, I think.
Hear me? Now you can, right? Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Khosa, for a chance for me to give an introduction. So I'm new to Dr. Namira. I've been Dr. Khosa's mentee since a few years now, and we've established a really great working relationship. So just a tidbit about me for anybody who's watching this video is I am Dr. Kanis Fatma. I'm a graduate from Dow Medical College in Karachi. When I was in med school, there was this unanimous consensus sort of thing on the importance of research, and all of our seniors would talk about how important research is and how important publishing it is. But every time we would ask them how to go about it, all we'd get is like a thumbs up, like go for it. But there was nobody really to actually guide you as to how to go about it. So at the end of med school, me and my colleague, Dr. Muhammad Shazib Khan, both of us decided that we should be the change that we want to see in the world. And if nobody else is doing it for us, we should do it for ourselves and for the people who are coming after us. So we co-founded an organization called the Research Council of Pakistan. Throughout all of med school, all the information that we had gathered on research, the ups and downs after all of the struggles and everything, we had been able to publish quite a few research papers. And we decided that we were gonna compile all of that cumulative knowledge that we had, turn it into a workshop, a very subsidized workshop for medical students. And we're going to teach them everything that is required in a form of a crash course. Um, this was founded in 2016, and it was obviously an immediate hit amongst medical students in Karachi because there was nobody else to teach them. Then after that, we like came across a hurdle where people were like, you guys are teaching us everything. And even then, like Dr. Namira was stressing on the importance of a mentor. So growing up, it wasn't something that we were very acclimatized with, the importance of a mentor in your life, somebody who's going to guide you with every step. So we realized after feedback from all the students that we were teaching that just teaching them isn't enough. After the workshop, you need to establish a working relationship. You need to be there for them until they take their very first steps like babies, and then they're independent in what they're doing over time. So we always tell our students that I actually just got done with my workshop right now. I had a workshop today. I think you guys know about that. So I have been working since the past 10 hours now. It started like 8 or 9 in the morning. So I was telling the same thing to the 100 students who came to class right now that RCOP is, when you come to RCOP, this is a lifetime membership. So this is mentorship for a lifetime. You can pick up your phone, call me anytime, and I'm going to answer your questions, whatever they may be. So coming back to the point, this is what we did. We told them that not only are we going to teach you, we are going to teach you all the researchers, not just the basic ones, but the ones that are at the top of the hierarchy, the ones that are going to help you make contacts. We're going to help you come up with a topic. We're going to mentor you until you finalize a project. We're going to help you with the editing and the submission, and we're not going to stop over there because our goal is not to just propagate research. Our goal is to have a network of Pakistani doctors or anybody else, even outside the country who works with us. Our goal is to have a network of doctors and researchers throughout the world. So not only do we work with them, not only do we mentor them, we also connect them to all the big authors. We've connected many people with Dr. Khosa as well. Several of them have been successful. One recently even got a research position from Dr. Faisal Khosa's LOR. We're going to speak about that more in a little bit. Many of my mentees I see are also participants in this webinar, and I'm happy to see their faces. So yeah, that's what we did. That's what we're doing right now. So far, what we've done is we've mentored thousands of people, published hundreds of papers. Many of them can be seen at rcop.pk, our website, and we're very active on our Twitter and our Facebook page as well. Thank you so much.
So thank you for humility on part of both of you. So like Numera, Kaniz also said, some tasks or some manuscripts or some papers. Your team, as far as I remember and I know, has published 300 manuscripts in 6 years, which probably is a record in itself, 50 a year. And that has been a credit. And yes, every year RCOP sends like 20, 25, 30 students who are who've learned the methodology, who've already published. So it is a very, very easy task on my part to sort of mentor and groom people who have already been nurtured in such a good sort of methodical manner. So yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Dr. Khosa and Dr. Kaniz Fatma. Dr. Adina Mushir, can you give us an introduction of yourself? And we can't see your video unless that's intentional. No.
I think this is by
She may not be.
mistake, and it was
Okay.
It was
Got it.
shared with
Got
her.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump right in to the to our goal for today, and we want to start with I know already questions, but we want to start with some questions that we think that need to come up. Let's start with the idea of Dr. Khosa, why research is necessary or is an essential skill to have.
So there are two ways to approach this question, two ways to answer this question. First of all is, if you look at from the point of view of admission to medical school or admission to residency or admission to fellowship, everybody has done the exams, whether that is MCAT, whether that is USMLE, whether that is PLAB for UK, or that is MCCQE, MCCEE for Canada, the entrance exams I'm talking about, to medical school or to gain entry into the medical system, residency or fellowship in abroad. You all have to do electives, you all have to do observerships, you all have to have a degree, whether that is medical degree or that is advanced A-level degree. So all the applicants on all the applications are similar. They have all done, and because I am at the other end, I've been at the application end and now I'm at the reviewer end who reviews the applications. So all the applicants are almost similar on paper. What distinguishes applicants is their accomplishments, what they have done and gone over and beyond, like research and like publications. Because publishing in a journal, peer-reviewed journal, is a rigorous process. When you submit your research manuscript or your research paper to a journal, it is reviewed by experts in that discipline, in that field. After their review, they either reject it or they'll accept it and say, make these changes. Ultimately, it gets published. Through that rigorous process, once it is published, it is available for posterity. It is available on PubMed, and it is added to the medical literature of the world as long as the world will exist. And then that work is cited by other people who follow in your footsteps. So therefore, you've got brilliant scores in United States medical licensing examination or MCAT or Canadian entrance exam, that will be beat by somebody else. Somebody else will do better than you. And your score will then, maybe it was the highest at the time you took the exam or passed the exam, will be forgotten. But what you've added as research will never be erased or deleted. So that by itself distinguishes you as an applicant. That's number one. Number two, if you don't look at it from immediate goal or gain point of view, which is residency or getting into medical school or any other accomplishment, achievement like that, polio was cured from the world, almost cured from the world. Smallpox, chickenpox, malaria, now you've got COVID, the vaccine, all these have been created by people who did research. So the world becomes a better place because of research. The misery in the world decreases and hopefully will end someday because of research. So, you cannot be at a loss by doing research. At every step of the way, research, once you've published is going to be a feather in your cap. I hope I've answered the question.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Khosa. So a follow-up question to that would be, and Dr. Kanis Fatma, you can answer after Dr. Khosa how you approach this at RCOP. How do students decide on a topic or what to research, or how do they go about it?
So it's not the student actually. Very rarely will it be the student. Mostly it is the mentor. So I'll give you an example. I used to do research related to patients. As a radiologist, it was, okay, CT scan shows fracture in how many patients compared to X-rays done on the same patients. Or MRI picks up how many cancers compared to CT scanning. But then I realized that for every project, there was an ethics approval required. That ethics approval would take 6 to 8 months, and then recruiting patients, collecting patient consent, collecting patient data would take a very long time. So in a year, I was able to publish maybe 2-3 manuscripts a year. Also in that, I could not mentor students because that data was confidential. So it could not be shared outside my institution. But then when I started doing the research from publicly available data, which is gender disparity research, racial disparity research, financial disparity research, bibliometrics, meta-analyses, systematic reviews, then I could mentor students from all over the world, from high school students who get authorship on manuscripts to undergrad students who then get into medical school, and some are still, after getting into medical school in Canada and US, are still working with me because one wants to do dermatology, another one wants to do neurosurgery, a third one wants to do plastic surgery. So once I started doing research with publicly available data, I could train, I could mentor anybody anywhere in the world. And last year, because of publicly available data research, I was able to publish more than 50 manuscripts. Whereas if it was patient-related data research, I could publish 2 to 3, and I could not mentor people outside my institution. Kanis, go ahead.
That's a very, very good and very relevant question. And we come across that issue a lot of times in the thousands of students that I've taught. Seldom it happened that a student came up to me and said, "Oh, I'm full of ideas and I don't struggle with this very one thing." But first, I would like to second what Dr. Khosa said, but more importantly, like I was teaching the same thing to the class that I was teaching today, that I was telling them that, listen, all of you guys are on Instagram and you're on Facebook, and do not tell me that none of you guys are stalkers, because we know all of us are. You stalk your friends, you've stalked your ex, you've stalked somebody in life. And I'm like, if you are, then that's good. What I'm asking you to do over here is just stalk PubMed, because just like Instagram is recommending friends to you, if you go on PubMed and you type a journal of choice or you type a topic of choice, PubMed as a resource is going to tell you that, okay, you may like this thing as well. It's going to suggest other articles. It's going to suggest other journals that are similar to your topic of interest. So you go from one click to another and you keep jumping, just like you stalk on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, and you get to where you want. Number one. Number two, people, even after all of this, like Dr. Khosa said, people do struggle because I think, yes, a very big issue is the ERB or the IRBs, and it takes really long. And then even when we're talking about collecting original data, it takes a really long time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of times financial resources and constraints from people. A lot of times people are not willing to share their personal data with you, right? So definitely, I would second what Dr. Khosa said, that use publicly available data. And in RCOP, this is why we decided to counter all of that in a manner where we told our students, you know what, you don't need an IRB, you don't need data from a person. And if you're worrying, for example, about your research not being important enough, we're talking about meta-analysis over here that is at the top of the research hierarchy. Technically, meta-analysis is more important than a clinical trial because it pulls all the data from all the clinical trials. And the beauty of the study is you do it while sitting at home. You do not need anyone's permission to do it because it's publicly available data. It does not cost you anything. Big authors, important doctors are willing to co-author with you on that project because it's a very important project and journals are willing to take it. So even if your topic isn't that novel or advanced, journals are still happy to publish your work because it has so much power. So yeah, that's how we overcame that hurdle that we faced, and it's going. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think it's challenging for people and students in Pakistan to figure that out. And I think it's important if they have a mentor that, like Dr. Khosa said, that they identify the research project with the mentor. And for those, not every medical school has that opportunity, even in Pakistan. And for those who don't, then I think RCOP offers a great opportunity to use public data for research. And I'm assuming you guys go through a process and education. In the US, of course, a lot of times the students here, medical school, use research as an academic source. You know, they decide during medical school what they want to do, residency, they find mentor, but it's all related to, as Dr. Khosa said, finding that person who can actually figure things out for you. For many people here, it may be where they want to go to a program that's academic, but I think for IMGs, the issue is that compared to the American graduates, the number of publications, even for internal medicine, are much fewer. So, you know, every medical student from here may graduate with 4 or 5 publications. Our students almost graduate sometimes with 0. So my question then is next, that if we are sort of mentoring these students to do research, how do you, Dr. Khosa, teach them the skills that are involved so that then they can, you know, use them? Because we don't want them to interview and say we did research, but they have no idea what they were doing. So please, if you can answer that.
So, you know, from research methodology, I request colleagues representing RCOP, Research Council of Pakistan, to discuss that and elaborate that. But when I am doing research or conducting research with students, I've got high school students, undergrad students, and medical graduates, international medical graduates. And so it is very, very simple. You know, we've got Excel files created, templates, empty Excel files with except the headings that they are going to collect data on. So it is as simple as this, you know, that there are 400 programs, for example. There will be 4 students that are given that Excel file on a Google Doc. It is shared, they can access it anywhere from anywhere in the world. And they will compile and catalog data by visiting department websites. For example, internal medicine, they have to catalog the name of the department chair, the gender, the race of department chair, the additional qualifications of department chair, the H index from Scopus, which is freely available, H index, number of citations of the department chair. And then they have to do the same for everybody in that department from the website. So once they have collected this data for 400 or 500 programs, this becomes a huge Excel file. When that is compiled, there will be a medical student that will be supervising those students, undergrad, high school students, or there will be a resident mentoring. If it is a team of 4 medical students, a resident will be mentoring them. We will have Skype or Zoom session with them, and we create a WhatsApp group of those 4 or 5 students. So whatever problems they encounter, they can talk to each other on WhatsApp text. And then we have a 2 weekly or a monthly meeting in which we can discuss whatever they could not resolve on their own. There is a cost involved. When Kaniz asked me in a previous session, should this all be free? It cannot be, because once all the data is compiled, the data is given to a professional statistician. Sometimes I will involve a professional epidemiologist to design the study, to make sure that to begin with, the study design is not flawed. When it is given to a statistician, the statistician will be paid money. And if it is a radiology related project, okay, it suits my professional profile. But if the project is psychiatry or internal medicine or dermatology or neurosurgery, then it is benefiting those students and that applicant. That has to be realized. So once this is done, then I will get somebody who has expertise in writing to write the manuscript, and then it is submitted to the journal and the process goes on. Sometimes my manuscripts get accepted on first submission. Sometimes it has to go from 1 to 2 to 3 journals. But it is as simple as I have explained. The 50 plus manuscripts that my team published last year were exactly published like this. It is as simple. There's no rocket science. People in their mind try and convolute things and try and make things difficult. It is as simple as this. Now, one caveat I'll add before I give the floor to Knees. People often come to me and say, we have followed your advice and we have compiled the data and we have written a manuscript. Now, we want to invite somebody very influential in North America. Can you help us get that individual to become a co-author? Now, how do I know that data is authentic? How do I know there are no shortcuts in that data? When I have been involved from the start of the project, I know the project inside out. Then I can invite Javed Siddiqui, Javed Butler, Faz Bhura, all these influential physicians, whether they are cardiologists or neurosurgeons or dermatologists or thoracic surgeons, I can invite them and they are happy to become co-authors on my projects because I already have 220 peer-reviewed publications. I have received, God has been very kind, but I have received awards of mentoring and research all over the world. So I bring that reputation where they know that if they collaborate with me, if they put their names on my manuscript, if they collaborate and edit the manuscript or get involved in the project, I am not going to cheat them because my own reputation is at stake. But somebody who's a high school student or undergrad student or a recent medical graduate, why would somebody influential trust you just because you wrote an email? It doesn't work like that. Go ahead, Kanis. I hope I've answered the question, Namara. If not,
yes, you have. Marshalla, you already have done a lot and have a lot of projects, and I hope you have a cap and you won't say yes to everyone. So let's say that the student has to do this in their medical school and they need to find someone there. How do they go about doing what you're doing with them?
It is very, very simple and very, very easy. When somebody comes through an authentic source, like Research Council of Pakistan, when somebody comes through Numera, people who have credibility, Research Council of Pakistan, not everybody is practicing in North America. Not everybody is, associate professor or full professor from their team. But having worked with them, I know that they do not tolerate shortcuts. They do not let people enter their team who they think are going to sabotage the project. I'll give you an example. I had a female who contacted me and said that she needed help and she was a single mother. And of course, we all want to help minorities, whether that is a female, person of color. That's all my research and that's what I'm passionate about. Now, there were 4 females in that research project, exactly the same. They were collecting data on Google Doc in different parts of the world. 2 of them had disagreement on author order, first author, second author, third author. Now, I was not privy to that conversation, and the data had been collected and completed over 6 months by 4 of them. Due to that disagreement, one of the females deleted the entire Google Doc. 6 months of data was deleted. Now that they are applying for residency, and I have to write letters of reference for them and call program directors for them, I am in such an awkward position. Because if I write that the project data has been completed and it is being sent to a statistician for analysis, then I'm lying. But if I don't give them the letter of reference, then the dilemma is, why should the other 3 suffer because of one deleting the data? So therefore, you have to find, people previously said, there is nobody in Pakistan. How do we connect with you, Dr. Khosa? Who will connect us with you? Now Research Council of Pakistan exists. People from entire Pakistan can contact them. The problem is that every time I do a session, even today, I'll request all the audience, I do not need Facebook friends. I do not need followers on LinkedIn. I do not need followers on social media, and I do not need hundreds of emails filling my inbox. You have Research Council of Pakistan, please connect with them. They will teach you research methodology and connect you with me. That is how we do it every year. So don't create shortcuts. That's number one. Number two, people in Canada, people in US, people in Europe connect with me all the time. But then they come to me with prior research experience and with somebody's reference that this was our mentor when we published this manuscript. We at least have one manuscript published or two manuscripts published. So therefore, remotely you can mentor us. And then I'll create an Excel file, create a project, share the Google Doc. I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you. So Kaniz, if you can elaborate on that for your research council, how do you go about protecting individuals from, like an example that Dr. Khosa gave?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I'd like to scale back a little bit, and what you, the numbers that you shared were actually pretty true and very interesting, where you were like, an American graduate, when they're graduating, they have an average of 4 to 5 publications, whereas the majority of people over here have 0 publications. That's true. But when you said that these people, when they have, if they have publications on their CV and they may be a little clueless about the work or the intricacies or the details of the project or the work or the research that they've done in front of a program director. So that I think would be true for individuals who bribe other people or buy research, which may be a culture in some places. Those people would be clueless in front of a program director. But the mere basis on which Research Council of Pakistan was formed was not only that you can have research on your CV and you can get residency spots or research spots, but also so that you may learn research and alleviate the problems of the world that Dr. Khosa was talking about, so that you may make the world a better place, or so that you may be at the tables where decisions are being made, so that you may be able to change guidelines of the world. You may be able to have an impact in the world as a person from a third world country that's changing the face of medicine. That's what we teach our students. So if you have to get there, then you have to know, you have to walk the walk, not only talk the talk, and only then you can get to that point. So how we do that in our organization is that we take them from the bottom up. We teach them everything there is to learn. That's why the classes are really long as well. And now we've gone online as well ever since COVID. So we take students from all over the country now, and we answer all questions. We even teach them, coming to your next question, we even prepare them to a point because of our interactions with Dr. Khosa and what we learned as mentees from Dr. Khosa about how we're supposed to have a certain form of an attitude where you're not entitled, where you're grateful, but at the same time, you're watching your back. You are not there to be abused by an authority, but at the same time, you're also there as a grateful individual for a doctor who's taking care of you and who's mentoring you, taking out his precious time to do that, right? So we teach our students that. And the thing that Dr. Khosa was mentioning right now, that the reason he would take students from RCOP, or he would take students that have been recommended by some other person, is because we work on that as well. We work on attitude from the grassroots up as well, because it's so much easier when you have people in first year or second year or all throughout med school, and giving them those talks and changing them and preparing them for the future at this point in time when their personality is still a little bit moldable, is so much more important and so much more feasible than to have someone already in a residency spot or in very other important positions and have them listen to you that, okay, there's the attitude is problematic, etc., etc. So we work on all of those things. We protect our students like that. And not only do we do that in the class, we also, I have students over here as participants as well, and they would agree to it as well, that even in the groups that we form, we always mentor them. They're all on our WhatsApp, we're an email away and everything. So we continue to counsel them. We continue to upkeep those values. We continue to feed them those values up till the end, so that over a process of 6 months or however long it takes for them to publish the article, all of that is in their genes, hopefully by then.
Thank you, Kane. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out. So just to emphasize that it's not about just having your name on a research. It's about knowing, about understanding the skills, the honesty that research involves, the accountability to your mentor. Graduates here don't just find research by, they go through a process. And some colleges have the teaching that RCOP is doing, but some others don't. So what resources do students have if they're not able to be part of something like the Research Council? How can they utilize what you're teaching? Or maybe you have, as Dr. Khosa said, we can't do this without having some form of stipend that is related to this teaching. So what opportunities do we have for maybe people who may be financially burdened or from underserved areas or anything like that?
Let me add to that, Numera. I honestly, I have often heard this, that I cannot I don't have the resources. And then the same people, when they used to come to Emory University or when they used to come to Harvard University, where I was in Boston, or now at UBC, when they come, the elective costs $2,000 to $2,500 per week. So they spend more than $10,000 for just observing 1 month. And I know, because I've worked in these universities, the letter of observership that the student gets, it is just 2 lines.
That is correct.
It says this student was an observer between March and April, or for the month of March. That is it. So people spend $10,000 plus the travel, plus the hotel or bed and breakfast, whatever accommodation. It costs maybe $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 plus traveling for a 2-line letter. Whereas when they work with Research Council of Pakistan, they would spend probably $100 or $150 or $200, in which they will be taught the research methodology, in which they will be assigned a research project, in which they will be mentored on the research project, in which they will ultimately turn it out into a manuscript. Then they will connect with me. I will, if I don't become a co-author, because it is something that I am not an expert in, I will invite experts from all over the world in that. Through that collaboration and through that publication, they will get letters of reference from those experts. So number 1, you learn research methodology. Number 2, you develop connections with influential physicians. Number 3, you get a publication. Number 4, you get help at the time of residency because you collaborated with influential physicians. So it is a win-win on multiple avenues for $100 or $150. They are happy to spend $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 because they are getting a 2-line meaningless letter from an influential university versus $150, which really creates a change on your resume and in your application. But people don't understand this. People don't want to understand this. Sorry, go ahead, Kanis.
No, that's okay. I actually want to, it's a good thing to emphasize. I think that observership has become the new US clinical experience. And we have been trying to help graduates understand that that does not equal a clinical elective during medical student years. And speaking to many program directors, observership is okay, but it does not equate research. It does not equate actual contact during medical school. So, but our graduates are very limited in resources. So sometimes That's what they have. But if they can have research and that together, that would be great. So Kanis, do you have anything to add? We have started getting a lot of questions that I'm going to get to some.
I think this was a very, very relevant question. So thank you so much for asking this. First of all, when you guys are talking about observerships, right? So observership, people do the observerships as a replacement for a clinical elective or an externship, because the ECFMG requires you to have 3 LORs for you to be able to apply for the match. But as far as research is concerned, we don't compare research publications with observerships. What I see in students is comparing that with a research elective. So when Dr. Khosa is saying somebody is out there and only for a single LOR, they're spending $10,000. In a research elective, you don't even get an LOR, because the purpose of the research elective was to get a research publication. And more often than not, more than 95% of the times, people don't end up getting an LOR or a research publication, and they end up spending up close to $5,000 to $10,000. Number two, I am a firm believer of the fact that this is, I feel, human psychology, the psychology of brain, that the human brain starts taking for granted anything that's free or anything that's not priced to its actual potential. So I am a firm believer in the idea that if the workshops were free of cost, fewer people would be joining the workshops, because the workshops would not hold that value in their minds. That's why when Shazib Khan, my co-founder, and I were coming up with a price point, we decided that the price point should neither be way too high and should neither be way too low or free, so that we can manipulate the mindsets of these students and get them to learn, which is why it was priced at this particular point. It's the price of a dinner in Pakistan, really. So, or an Eid outfit. So I'm pretty sure that if somebody really wants to do it, they will be doing it.
Okay, thank you. I do want to say that I did a research elective, and as a student, it was, I think if you can get a research elective in the US, that doesn't have to be independent of doing research, for example, with RCOP or otherwise, because they're completely different sort of skill sets. For my research elective, I did basic sciences in GYN oncology at Harvard. And it was a very different experience because we don't get that in Pakistan. I did not even think about getting a letter of recommendation, but I did get a chance to mention that in my CV, because there were skills that I learned that I would have otherwise never learned. I made some connections for, I was intending to do general surgery, so that was a good thing. So I would recommend to students that you keep both things as in fact, if you can get teaching from RCOP and then go do your research elective, that would be pretty beneficial, because you have the knowledge. Or the other way around, you did a research elective and you were so motivated and understood its importance for academia, and then you wanted to hone your skills and found an organization that can do that. So I am going to go through some questions. We'll start with the top. I think, Amna, we already addressed your question about the topic. And for everyone, I did put the link for RCOP in our chat box. Dr. Hassan Rizwan is asking, do you have any suggestions for hosting collaborations between principal investigator researching similar topics?
So first of all, I would like to request the students who are watching that you must show initiative. You know, if you write in this chat that I search Research Council of Pakistan on the internet and I couldn't find anything, please post the link. More than happy to do it. But this habit of getting spoon fed, please post the link to Research Council of Pakistan. Please post the link to this. Without doing it yourself or trying it yourself, you are doing disservice to yourself, because there is a learning curve to searching and finding things. If you don't show initiative, that reflects badly on you. Then if you connect with me or Kaniz and you want to say, please, take us under your wing, become our mentor, we've already noticed that you lack initiative. So you are always on stage, even when you think you're not. In life, you're always on stage, and people are always observing and noticing you. So this is an opportunity to show initiative. That's number one. Number two, finding a topic, that is where a mentor comes in. If you, as I said before, if you complete a project and come to me, I will be reluctant to become a part of it because I don't know how rigorous your methodology was. What was the oversight on your project? The projects that I am doing, anybody can do them because they are from publicly available data. All you have to do is download 2 or 3 of my papers, look at the methodology and follow that. But having said that, if you complete a project without oversight, without supervision, without a mentor, then that defies the purpose, because your purpose is to get a publication, have mentor through that process, get letter of reference through that process. Somebody who supervised you over 6 months or a year can say authentically that I mentored this student over a year, over 6 months. Proof is in the pudding, proof is in the product, because through that 6 months of mentoring, this student completed a project which has been submitted to a high impact journal. That is what makes a difference on your letter of reference. That is what makes a difference on your CV, rather than just one line saying, I published. Good enough, good enough. But you can create a win on multiple fronts. Through that publication, you can get a mentor. Through that publication, you can get a letter of reference. Through that mentor, you can get help at the time of residency or medical school application. So what I'm saying is, it is easy for you. If you're going to do that process anyway, then you can create a win on multiple ends. There was a former American president, thank God, now former. There is only one thing that he said that I like. And he famously said, if you're going to dream anyway, why not dream big?
Thank you, Dr. Khosa. Thank you very much. On the same topic, similar topic, there's some students or graduates who will do research as a postgrad. And I can answer some of this, but how about we just start with any benefit of doing that for, I don't want to say non-competitive, but less competitive residency programs. So we know programs like general surgery, dermatology, subspecialties in surgeries are extremely competitive. And it's not just the research when you do for that is not just because they need you to have publications, it's because those years of research will provide mentoring, guidance, and it's a whole process. But for residencies like internal medicine, family medicine, the primary care residencies, what do you think is the role of research there? I want to point out to everyone who is here, I've already mentioned that if you compare the NRMP data, American graduates have more publications than IMGs, regardless of residency choices. But in a competitive program, it's a completely different story. The difference is actually even bigger. So go ahead, Dr. Khosa, if you can comment on that.
I'll tell you, I used to hire people, international medical graduates, without any research into research jobs. And every year I would do that. And every year, so I'll give you an example. There was a son of a cab driver that I hired. And he was an older graduate, not good scores. I hired him. I mentored him over 2 years, zero research. And ultimately, we published 40 plus peer-reviewed manuscripts in which I invited program directors, family medicine, internal medicine, psychiatry. He matched the first book that I was writing. After matching in family medicine, He stole that book and self-published that book. So I learned a lesson. Now I don't hire people who have no research experience, because nobody hires people who have no research experience. Somebody is not going to give you a visa, and somebody is not going to pay you $50,000 or $55,000 per year to teach you research. You may be, first of all. Number two, I would request people, all the audience, not to use the word desperate in their communication. I am desperately searching. Nobody wants to connect with desperate people. Nobody wants to take responsibility for desperate people. Desperation is not a good term, good word, good label to have. So people often in communication flaunt, I am desperate. It does not reflect well on you, number one. Number two, nobody will hire you if you already do not have research experience. I'll give you an example why. Because when you apply for a research position, people from all over the world are applying for that same position. People who have done MPH, people who have done PhD, people who have done extensive research, have 20, 30 publications. Why would somebody hire you compared to an MPH or a PhD or somebody who has 20, 25 publications? I used to hire those people without research, but ultimately I realized they almost always cut shortcuts, they almost always sabotaged projects, and they almost always created problems and troubles. I'll give you an example. I was talking to Kaniz, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, and there is one individual that was mentored by Research Council of Pakistan, and he has written to me on ResearchGate, LinkedIn, emails, and just sent me an email as well, just now as well. People don't realize this gentleman has attended many sessions where I've tried to tell him to change his ways, but no. So I asked Kaniz, I said, Kaniz, on a level from 1 to 10, how big of a pain was this individual? How big of a headache was this individual? So Kaniz said, on a scale of 1 to 10, this individual was 20. So now, why would I mentor somebody like that? Why would I take somebody like that under my wing? So this is what I'm saying. You're always on stage. You're always on stage. When this gentleman worked with Research Council of Pakistan, he created such a headache for the entire team and Research Council of Pakistan that nobody wants to now give him a letter of reference, and nobody wants to sort of affiliate with him in spite of him having research.
I'd like to add a little bit over here pertaining to your question. Your particular question was that why would we need to do a research position or be on a research position if we're aiming for a less competitive residency post, right? So I feel like the stereotypical example in front of us would be my colleague and my friend, co-founder of Research Council of Pakistan, Dr. Mohammad Shahzeb Khan, who did his residency in internal medicine. And after doing his residency, so he did not do a research position before that, but during his residency, he realized that the only thing missing in his entire portfolio had great scores, great LORs from Cleveland Clinic, LORs from Brigham and Women's Hospital, Harvard, LORs from University of California, San Diego, had 50 publications at the time of graduation, which is a little bit unheard of in IMGs. And in spite of all of that, he was unable to match into an Ivy League program or into a very competitive program for internal medicine. And it was during his residency that he realized that the only missing hole in his entire application was probably a contact or a mentor, a person who would mentor him closely. This is when Dr. Faisal Khosa connected him with Dr. Javed Butler, who is the chairman of University of Mississippi and a really famous cardiologist in America. And through the help and mentorship of Dr. Javed Butler, and obviously through his own efforts as well, he was then able to match into Duke University in the cardiology fellowship. Again, something that is completely unheard of from a brown guy who did medical school in Pakistan and who was not in an Ivy League program for his residency.
Thank you,
Bye.
Dr. Kanis. So I am going to be signing off right now. I apologize. I have another webinar to do. However, we do have a lot of questions, and Dr. Fatma is going to take over as host. Dr. Khosa, I really appreciate you waking up early and continuing this webinar. So if it's okay with Dr. Khosa and Dr. Fatma, I would recommend continue till 10:30, so 30 more minutes. And then Dr. Fatma, it's going to be on. I'll just text me and so thank you, everyone. We want you to please visit the YPC website. We're going to be posting this webinar there as well. And we want you to reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.